Who really pulls the strings in Venezuela? A democratically elected leader or someone Washington has put a $50 million bounty on? Or has the country that once swam in oil money become just a pawn in a bigger superpower game? Hey everyone, I'm Benjamin Franklin and my face is still on the $100 bill. Let's dive in and figure out how Venezuela, home to the world's largest oil reserves, plunged into economic hell, and why Nicolás Maduro, who clung to power for 12 years, ended up in a U.S. prison while his country spirals even deeper into chaos. Let's start with the glory days. Back in the 50s and 70s, Venezuela was dubbed the Saudi Arabia of Latin America. Caracas glittered with skyscrapers, luxury cars, casinos, and beach resorts. Over 300 billion barrels of oil seemed like an endless treasure chest. The government threw money around like confetti, building infrastructure, bloating the bureaucracy, and paying officials insane salaries. Debt? No big deal. Oil prices were sky high. Simple analogy, imagine you've got a magic money faucet. You spend like crazy because there'll be more tomorrow. That's exactly what Venezuela did, tying 95% of its exports to oil. No diversification, no rainy day fund. But the storm hit in the 80s. Saudi Arabia flooded the market with cheap oil. Prices crashed back to early 70s levels. For Venezuela, it was doomsday. Debt exploded, inflation devoured everything, salaries and benefits went unpaid. By the late 90s, 1 in 3 lived in poverty. Caracas's glamour turned into a backdrop for misery. The people snapped, revolution time. In 1992, young officer Hugo Chávez tried a coup. It failed, he got jailed, but a couple years later he was pardoned. In 1998, he won the election and became the country's youngest president ever. Chavez swore oil would finally benefit the people, and at first it did. Prices soared, billions poured in. Social programs, free healthcare, housing, food for the poor. He nationalized the oil industry, kicked out foreign companies, investors panicked, capital fled. But Chavez rode the same wave as his predecessors. Oil is king, everything else can wait. When prices hit $150 a barrel in 2008, that was the peak. Then cancer. Chavez died in 2013, handing the reins to his loyal buddy Nicolás Maduro. And that's when true hell broke loose. Oil prices tanked, inflation skyrocketed to millions of percent. People hauled cash in wheelbarrows for a loaf of bread, shelves emptied, power and water came on schedules. Millions, over 7 million per UN estimates, fled the country. Maduro gripped power with an iron fist, jailing opposition, rigging elections, crushing protests. The U.S. slapped sanctions, indicted him for narco-terrorism with a $50 million bounty. American ships loomed offshore. Invasion whispers grew. Venezuela turned into a drug transit hub, flooding the U.S. and Europe. Meanwhile, China quietly scooped up debts and oil flows, turning the country into their foothold. But why did the U.S. and Trump go all in on Venezuela? Simple, Maduro became a narco baron next door. His regime was accused of running the cartel of the Suns, generals and officials pushing cocaine, fentanyl, and weapons straight into Mexico and the U.S. This fueled America's opioid crisis, tens of thousands dying yearly from overdoses, families shattered, billions lost in economic damage. Americans suffered directly. Venezuelan drugs brought death to streets from New York to LA, spiking crime and border chaos. Geopolitics piled on. Maduro cozied up to China, Russia, and Iran, making Venezuela a Chinese outpost in the Western Hemisphere. For Trump, that was unacceptable, a threat to U.S. interests in Latin America. Sanctions for human rights abuses, election fraud, and repression just fueled the fire. Trump saw Maduro as a tyrant undermining democracy and decided enough.
And Maduro, he loved to show off. In speeches, he bragged about defeating imperialism, threatened to crush the Yankees, boasted about oil rivers making Venezuela a superpower. We're free from the dollar. he'd shout while the country drowned in debt, parading 21st century socialism on TV, promising endless prosperity, but behind the scenes, corruption and drug trafficking thrived.
Punishment caught up in January 2026. In Operation Absolute Resolve, U.S. Special Forces raided Caracas under cover of night, grabbing Maduro and his wife Celia Flores. They flew him to New York, where on January 5 he appeared in federal court in Manhattan in an orange jumpsuit, claiming kidnapping as a prisoner of war and pleading not guilty to narco-terrorism charges. Trump crowed, "We got Maduro, now the U.S. controls Venezuela." Vice President Delcy Rodriguez took over temporarily, but chaos only worsened. Protests, shortages, economy in freefall. The irony, a nation sitting on trillions of barrels became one of the poorest. Money flowed, but got squandered without a plan. When prices dropped, the empire crumbled. The lesson's clear. Betting everything on one magic faucet is suicide. No money, no funny without balance and strategy. Even an oil ocean dries up. If this opened your eyes, like, share, and subscribe. Dollar Ben knows where the real money secrets hide. See you in the next one.